Let's go straight up. 48 seconds in. Let's go. Let it go. Let what go? What are we trying to let go? What does let go subjectively mean to us? When they say let go, let it go. The different types of traumas throughout your energy bodies, they're at play right now, be it casual or extreme. Those traumas are trying to get purged out. And those traumas, casually, new traumas are always getting made because there's an impact of sorts within the interaction. And people will like have different types of trauma that they're trying to let go, because you have to let it go because things are already set in motion. Because like the thing that we're trying to understand when they say let it go, it means things are out of our control in a different natural way. And since things are out of our control, it's because from a different particular mechanic, casually from different energy sources, things have been set into some type of motion already. We're living through the motion casually, with and without the rhetoric and, you know, and the realization of like different original programmings. But within the particular mechanic, things are like, they're set in motion, like beyond the astrology. But the astrology is kind of like a surface level language of energy. And like astrology itself is an energy language that's coming to describe outside of the mechanics and what's being pushed out collectively from different energy portals. So that's what the astrology is attempting to do. But beyond the astrology is the things that are happening are things are set in motion. So there's something that's set in motion. So if something is set in motion, we're just going along for the ride. And there's a different, and you have to download No Choice, because when they say no choice, the human mind is going to be like, what the fuck that shit. Oh, like fuck all of this shit, like, or like something like that. You know, the mind, some part of your mind and the ego mind of the psyche is just going to go on different rants and tangents based on the fact that we're just extremely on the opposite side of how we put the universe second, right? And whatever that means to you, right? Because obviously when I say the word universe, that could jumble your mind to go a certain way. But like when we put the bigger picture second as opposed to first, then we're seeing how like the parent of the energy, we're kind of avoiding that. Like we're like there's like so the universe is trying to teach us like without us really, there's like infinite different types of parents, right? What does that mean? The different types of parents is like within the 3D. And here's another thought. So this is fitting. It's fitting, right? So the game that's happening right now, it's in between destruction and distortion and order, right? Because the game that's happening right now here is like within the 3D Earth to 5D, casually, there's still some type of detrimental, quote unquote, energetic, quote unquote, retardation, end quote, process. And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm trying to see like there's a slight mishap of it's offshooting a particular alignment. You could call it energetic measurements, right? People like to measure stuff, right? So let's get real about the higher predecessor science with and how the predecessors are carrying it on different ways for us to understand what the fuck is going on. Because we could measure the energies, right? Like not just with the numbers too, you know, we could just measure the energies of like of how like people are in a state to some percentage of energy. I guess it is kind of numbery, where there's a percentage of, you know, non-retardation energetically, respectively, and then there's an energy where people are like forming. There's parents that don't take care of their kids, for example. So since there's parents, and I'm not saying anything about my parents, I'm saying it on the bigger picture, you know, I'm not talking about that. This is a mature disclaimer conversation. I'm not picking. I have an intelligence where I'm not picking it. I'm not nitpicking at someone else. I'm doing my own shit, you know, like I'm doing my own shit. Like I'm seeing the state of the 3D to the 5D, right? And how people could have kids and they're just like, they're not ready to have kids. They're like, people are like in a state where like they're not taking care of like what they created generally. And I'm saying that generally, you know, so mind you on the understanding, because if you don't understand, then it's like, what's the then what's the point of any of this, right? So when I say no choice, I'm not trying to tell like the when I say no choice, I'm not trying to like disappoint anybody or like encourage anybody. I'm saying I'm understanding it on a different energetic level, that things are already set in motion, right? So if things are already set in motion, that's a type of a no choice. There's no choice. We're going along for a ride, and it's beyond the racism too, because people like to get caught up in just the thoughts and the thinking and the mental heady space, when it's really like it's not really any of that. It's like it's a different type of mature mind understanding no choice, because things are set in motion from different beacons within the quote unquote casual surface level astrology of the solar system. And then that could obviously be interpreted esoterically on many different fronts, original open source. And upon doing that, that's where it's up to our individual subjective young human to understand the different types of no choice of going through the planets, not just our individual human toxic mind. The quote unquote, there's different stationary places that are they're having an effect within this quote unquote cosmic clock, end quote. So let me just ground the understanding of a cosmic clock. The cosmic clock is like, we find ourselves with many different various genetic unique groups of humans, and a bunch of different genetic race humans from different temperaments from the solar system on the as above level have came on an as below level to honor their temperament genetic being from a different, you know, constellation, because the humans themselves, they're accumulations from different passed down constellation beings of the temperamental like energy beings. To make a new human race is from a different leaning and a different convergence from a different genetic temperamental energy base of quote unquote said constellations, end quote. So within that, humans themselves, they're coming from a lineage of genetic ancestry of like star astrology, right? So within that, we're understanding like how the spirituality is heavily misunderstood, because the spirituality is not necessarily indicative of surface level, just like material human, like quote unquote energy, realms, right? So the energy realms of just the humans, right? Humans, aside from the spirituality, is there's like energy realms of like just like material humans, right? Like just focusing on just the raw without, and then to put it to more understanding is there's a part of it that material game has that's not necessarily focused on real spirituality, or it's centered around spirituality. What do I mean by real spirituality? Remembering like how there's a higher, bigger picture doing a different thing within the arrangement of, you know, how we're going towards, you know, wherever we're going in the galaxy, wherever quote unquote, wherever like the energies are saying, where are we going, right? Because obviously I've been asking that question like in my own way since 2017. So that's a big disclaimer. That was a big disclaimer. That big disclaimer is saying like, things are already set in motion, right? So if things are already set in motion and we haven't done our own shadow work, and since we haven't done our own shadow work, then it's going to be hard for us to let go. Then your individual ego mind is creating your own unique subjective suffering based on the lack of shadow work and just like that toxic ego that has been filled within you is telling you to believe and be in a certain thought pattern and in a certain way, where that toxicity of like just the mental surface level energies of characters has been like kind of written into you, where you're just toxic and you're just like kind of blind to a bigger picture of just like, or you have cognitive dissonance to a bigger picture. And since the cognitive dissonance is to a bigger picture, that leads you casually to even being a little more toxic. But it's not just toxic, it's also ignorance too. It's ignorance because you're not seeing you're not understanding how something else is working. And since you don't understand, like there's implied like, or there's already like underneath the surface like confusion that's there. And then from that confusion, there's a particular niche self-hate of the confusion. And since there's a self-hate because you're confused, then you're toxic, right? So this is some advanced like psychology shit, because it's like it's saying Kali Yuga psychology. People have toxic minds, toxic psychology type of shit for no fucking reason. At the end of the day, they're like like I'm not saying no choice to say no choice. I'm saying no choice because there's something bigger than all of this shit. And I'm just trying to be natural with it too. I'm not even trying to like do it for, I'm not even trying to like, I'm just trying to like live and express. Like, I'm not even trying to like even impress anybody. Like, I really don't give a fuck about that. I'm doing this for me. If people don't understand that shit, that I'm doing it for me, and you could either choose to be inspired or be toxically a hating, and no pun to like any other, people that sounds similar, because hey 10 is different from hey, whatever, ye, hey, hi, ho, who, whatever the original Jehovah has to say about this. And that's another thing. So going into the astrology, so that was the disclaimer. I'm going to go to the astrology real quick. Then I'm going to go to the Tao. Then I'm going to go taking care of business. So let me talk about the astrology for 1 second. Aries season is low key. It's like it's like the hidden council is there, like it's like everything is exalted in the first house, and so everything is seen. Like the council itself is resetted. So we should actually go back and recap to the start of the Aries season, because Aries season is kind of like at its third, fourth quarter or whatever. Or let me see. So yeah, so 3 out of 4, 75% done. It's 10-10 right now. So Aries is 75% done. So it's like we're downloading that. We're at the fill. We're at the cup. We're at the top of the roller coaster with Aries right now before it drops. Before it has its last drop. So the Aries, it's like everything else has already picked up. So let me close the door and let me talk about the astrologer. So let me run through the astrology real quick. So the Mars shift, let me run through the astrology real quick. So the Mars shift, Mars went from Cancer to Leo. So when Mars is doing its thing, when it's Aries season, and Mars has a certain material exaltation to Aries, Mars and Aries. So when Mars was in Cancer to Leo, Mars had that solar power because his house, Aries house, was being solar powered, and he has like a direct line to that shit. So Mars is like, he's right there. So it's like, when Mars was in Cancer, he had like this sun, he had like a within the window of the astrology, he had like, because obviously like the sun could have been in like Pisces when Mars was in Cancer, and the sun could have been in like Aqua when Mars was in Cancer, more or less, give or take. I think Mars is like 60 days in the sign, if I'm not mistaken, maybe more or less. But within that, there was like a certain there's like a certain combustion effect happening within Mars being in Cancer and the sun in Aries. The Mars had some type of sun, drive, life force. So that's the key word right there. It was like a life force. There was the life force that was happening. It was like the life force of the planets, the life force of the sun, the life force of the sun going into Mars and Cancer, then going into Mars and Leo. And now the life force of the sun is in Mars within Leo. So now there's like a dynamic yin and yang effect of Mars and Leo, sun and Mars, and sun and Aries, Mars and sun. And that sun and Mars is having like this crazy fusion effect already in the surface level energies of things without beyond the humans. And within that, there's just kind of like a life force effect, right? What do I mean by a life force like effect of energy? It's like all the planets have their own life force, and the Mars life force, what it's doing right now that it's in Leo, it has an even more bigger life force because the sun is in Aries. So the sun is now in the Mars, and the Mars is going in the house of the sun, which is more sun. So it's sun, Mars, sun, because sun is in Aries, Mars is in Leo. And now and before, when Mars was in Cancer, it was like a sun moon effect, because moon was in Cancer. And then within the cosmic clock of things, sun was in Aries, resetting the one context of the Cadmian constellation solar system, sun in Aries at the top of it, right? So at the top of it, sun's in Aries, while within the cosmic clock of 2025, whatever, original open source, thank you very much, is when Mars was in Cancer and the sun was in Aries, that was a particular time in 2025 in the cosmic clock of things where there was a sun moon effect based on Mars being in Cancer, receiving the life force of the sun. When sun is in Aries, Mars is in Cancer, and Mars had like a certain sun exaltation. The sun was re-inviting his house to see the reset of the council of the energies. Because when Aries is a low-key sign for it's like the council is all there. All of it is like there's a collective council right there. It's like resetting the phase of like the seasons, right? All of the seasons, 1 out of 12, right? So 1 out of 6, 1 out of 12. So we're at the first step of it, right? And since we're at the first step, and there's already been work that has been done in the past, 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, 20, etc. All of those 20s are like we're catapulting those 20s into 2025, and those 20s are going to still be in effect like forever, right? So kind of keep going with the 20s. So all the 20s are here, 20 it up, and you can put anchovies on your pizza if you want. And I'm like pretty creative with my pizza. I can make my own pizza, like, vegan pizza, vegan cheese pizza, vegan crust pizza, vegan, pesto pizza, vegan, vegan cheese, more different vegan cheese pizzas. Just, and I like, you could like eat meat and still eat vegan stuff. But within all of that being said, it's like, the astrology is saying like the sun and the Mars, they're having their own like thing, they're having their own part, like they're having their own like quote unquote orgy, right? Of energy, end quote. And we're just along for the ride with their Naga shit, a different context of like planetary Nagas, astrology Nagas, astrology planet, like, celestial star Nagas and star niggas, like on an energy level though. That's what's happening. Like star nigga shit is happening. Like this is the real star ultra plug nigga shit. But anyways, so let me read the astrology for 1 second. Just for 1 second. So let me reset real quick. Mars is in Scorpio. Yesterday was one of those days, yesterday when moon is in Scorpio, you could like everyone it low key, we have to pay attention to when the moon is in Scorpio, that's when the darkness comes out, right? The darkness, for real, like for everybody, but it's more amplified. Like when the moon is in Scorpio, the darkness is just amplified. So, so the sun and moon, that's like the sun, moon, and like the surface level Saturn and Mars, that's the cosmic clock for the material realities of humans and infrastructures and quote unquote, general construction, right? General construction, part of the physical reality, general construction, and then deconstruction, how nations could do it or nature could do it. So there's a big difference, nature or nation. So all of this shit, don't misinterpret this shit. I'm just doing this naturally. I'm not like, people will fucking think, oh, I'm foreshadowing this. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen unless you have some crazy advanced astrology to see how nature is going to actually fucking make the future. Because how is the future going to be made? It's unpredictable. If you're going to say anything is unpredictable, you might as well say it's nature, because nature's been throwing like, you know, the twist of the life, right? The twist of the life. And nature is part of the quote unquote astrology shit, end quote. So I don't even like the word astrology anymore. So I'm saying quote unquote astrology, end quote, because when we even hear the English words, particularly of anything, it takes us on a path of subjective biashood, and that subjective biashood of like, oh, astrology is this, astrology is this. No, it's like it's a whole different mechanics. It's like literally it's a different mechanics of things. So since it's a different mechanics of things, we're going along for that ride of different mechanics. We could study that different mechanics, and we could be totally like confused and disarrayed on those mechanics, and just catching up with the mechanics, right? Original open source. So we're catching up with the mechanics. Uno person. So I don't even like the word astrology particularly, because it's like, once we hear that word astrology, the human mind is going to be like, it's going to have a bias already. For some reason, it's just going to have a toxic character biasness, and that toxic character biasness, somehow it's associated and fidgeted and jiminied somehow with the Jiminy Cricket English language. Somehow, like the toxic psychic ego mind is somehow, but they don't have to be connected though, but somehow they are. And it's like, it's not what we do, it's how we do it. It's how we're going to use the language, right? Because it's not all bad, right? We're using the English language to communicate and shit like that. And now we're seeing how like, we're not, when we hear no choice in how the human design is trying to tell us, like, what the fuck does that mean? Like that's like one of their first opening statements to like study human design respectively. But if you have a different opening statement, like how, like when studying human design, like what are the first things we should learn, right? That's like, it's me as a humble modest student questioning it, right? Not a teacher trying to be toxic and put down a student because they have their own fucking toxic mental shit. It's not that. So things are set in motion with the quote unquote astrology. So since things are set in motion, the human intelligence doesn't have the capacity to just kind of like think like, hold on, maybe we should let go if things are out of our control, right? So that's the thing. If we don't want to let things go, it's because we have our own shadow character within the shadow system of the shadow society of the shadow system or whatever, within life, of just like there's just a quote unquote a general toxic thing going. There's like a toxic like exchange going on, quote unquote, end quote, of just like too much confusion energetically, too much dissonance energetically. People are out here like why are people out here just like, you know, they're just like 3D is like, it's just like saying it for what it is. You know, 3D is saying like, this is where you're at with your soul path. You're like disrespecting nature from different lives, and different beings of consciousness are part of that nature. And they're kind of like exacting their, like people are like these quote unquote beings. They're like they're trying to make their will, right? So what does that mean? Make their will, circle of life, the wheel of life, the wheel of fortune. The wheel of fortune is nothing without relationships, because low key, that's one of like the main engines is the relationships. And because it's like we need like, there's a niche relationship that needs to be done for like a ship to fully operate. And the other day, like 5 days ago, like when Mercury was like in that retrograde season, it's like he left the ship in a certain region of the earth, you know, in the Pisces constellation when there was that retrograde effect. And within that, there was a thing on cruise control within knowing this shit, like being aware of this shit, of just like kind of seeing like where the surface level, like intelligence and communication is, and where that physical network of communication intelligence is, Mercury. And then kind of just being like, kind of like in that constellation on cruise control, though. You know, like the ship has been left on cruise control where like we don't like this ship is in the cruise control of the Pisces arena to the Aries arena. So within that, it's 12th to first house. So now we're going to be communicating and intelligent and just having the intelligence of the council of things. You know, Aries Loki is like the council. Everything is like, you know, hidden. Everything is collected, or everything is like the paradox of the start and the end. Aries is something like a paradox too, respectively, because in Pisces there's an ending and a starting of like within the different hintings of the I Ching and the Tao, and then Aries there's different casual, subtle startings and endings. So Aries low-key is a paradox of startings and endings, and Mercury's in that. It's getting the communication and the intel, and just like general organization is being kind of like, you know, orchestrated through Aries. Now Aries being kind of like the collection of a start, the collection of an end, like a paradox, like a council, like everything is collected there, a collecting. Aries is like a collecting, like everything's kind of like the consciousness is there. It's like the council of consciousness, low-key in the back. Not and it's going beyond like the English words of the zodiac signs too. We don't have to call it Aries, you know. The Egyptians called it like other shit, right? But it's just pointing to a place in space. So within that first house region of a constellation, and how the constellation has reflected and been born out of a different region of houses. Now the Mercury is there, and the Mercury being in Aries, it's like going out of Pisces. It's like now the ship knew what it was doing in like crazy, like, you know, Mercury and Pisces being like crazy, like, you know, abstract, like just like abstract ancient tales, right? So so Mercury being in Pisces was like it was like abstract, like amusement, right? Like within that abstract amusement, we were all kind of like, we were all like on a learning journey. Mercury being the learning journey of like this abstract kind of ancient story, Pisces. So within that, it's like we were like, the ship was like kind of like on one surface level tip, like the ship within Mercury and his collecting of things, you know, Mercury and like Mars and like in the first house, that being like a unique collection of things. So the key word I'm talking about is like a collection. It's like because like obviously I need to pause it, right? I need to pause it for people to understand. You know, obviously like we get it. Everyone has their own public speaking style. Everyone has their own public speaking, you know, greeting and their own use of like, you know, the tools of public speaking, right? Because there obviously is within one of the tactics of public speaking. Obviously, you have to pause within it, you know, make it make sense, right? Like obviously, but we all like we're using those tools or tactics of the public speaking differently, you know. And when I took my communication class a long time ago, what I remembered was like define your terms, right? Like define like, and that kind of changed my life, you know, just like these simple like tips. And it's not even necessarily about the grades, you know. At the end of the day, if you went to school, you showed up for school and you did your best within what you had, and you learned something, and you went through school and you took classes, regardless of the grade, you still did like some type of intellectual work, then at the end of the day, the grade doesn't necessarily matter per like your soul kind of like recognition of like the soul work you're putting in. Because like when we're doing the material things, it's also like a soul work, right? Your soul's in it, low key in the back, your soul's still in it, on the back door shit, on the black flow shit, on the tactile shit, on the tic tac shit, on the wick whack shit, on the backdrop shit, on the jackpot shit, on the north pot shit, on the south pot shit, on the left side shit, on the scrimshaw shit, on the slip pot shit, on the whip wash shit, on some slip slop shit, on some slip slop shit, on some tip top shit, on some drip drop shit, on some drip drop flip flap shit, on some crab shit, crabs in a bucket shit, what shit, what is this, yo, fucking shit, I be whisking it, yo, sip it like whiskey and rum, in this shit, what's up to ruminating, illuminating, yo, bruminating, yo, exhilarating, yo, pruminating, promulgating, promulgating, putinulating, zingulating, jinka pinulating. I'm the ancient Chinese everything, motherfucker. I ain't give a fuck though. So people like there's a particular. I understand these nations' psychologies. We're coming from a place of time of quote unquote Kali Yuga.
So it's not that hard to like, you know, just like you're saying the shit I'm doing is foreshadowing my shit. No, you guys put in more work within this life, and your shit is more foreshadowed, because at the end of the day, there's also another different type of no choice, which is the fates are going to do their shit. So no choice in a different understanding, no choice. The fates are doing their shit. Other people are in momentums. So we're trying to let go. There's a niche part of the spiritual path in how to let go. Like people have already put their things in motion. That's the start of this conversation, right? Things are already in motion, and the fates are going to do their shit, right? So I could die at peace right now because I'm just okay with that. You know, I'm okay with like understanding God's plan and God, the original source God beyond all of the gods, and still respecting somehow by nature's miracle, still respecting these gods and supplying these gods with a different source shit on some other shit. And that's being what it is on some ultra fat shit of it is what it is. Some ultra fat is what it is type of shit, where there's a source God beyond all of these material gods, all of the fucking richest of the fucking whatever, dude. There's something that's like supplying a different source of energy for the universe, for this shit to just be what it is, right? And then obviously still respecting, you know, where they've came from, their material upbringings, and how they built their place out of wherever they built within some type of ancient sound and shape and fractal of whatever the fucking ancients are fucking saying, because we all knew all this shit in 2012 supposedly. And now all of these new all-in-one platform copycat replicated programs are saying they can do something, but they're not fully about genuinely what they're saying. And there's just a sloppy replicated, you know, passed down script that's, you know, that AI has the chance to fucking recognize and not know, where that's already happening on a different level, on a fatter level, on a bigger level, on an original level, on a more cleaner level, and on a more original level, and on a more bigger level, and on a more truthful level of it, and on a more advanced level of everything that the AI is doing is not new. It's like it just has a certain replication tactic mechanism where it just kind of like it's at a regurgitation from its particular energetic standpoint vantage, where it's just like it's not necessarily about 100% its rhetoric. And for me to say that is ironic as fuck. I've been on here showing up quality since like Fats Underground 2017, so like it's all good, you know. I'm okay with the work I've put in, and I'm okay with the lack of work you've put in, and now you're trying to make a disgruntled, distorted little baby spiritual kindergarten baby war of some shit you have no fucking idea of how this whole shit works, and how I've been trying to help everybody casually, naturally the whole time. So it's like someone's like on a neutral metaphor, it's like don't bite the hand that feeds you, but obviously the gods and the universe will see that shit. That's the fucking future Akashic Records type of shit. So let me read this astrology. And I know people, there's probably people that want to fucking, you know, do terrible things, right, towards something, right? And I'm not, and for me just to be a really high mature spirit, you know, the mechanics allows that in the 3D. So for me to be like kind of okay with that I have high maturity, and if you don't understand that I have high maturity, then that's just where we're at. No judgment, right? That's just where we're at. So it's okay like that. I can read your mind effortlessly. It's okay. And it's okay. You could try to play on the disadvantage, and you could have the lower mindset. Oh, I'm going to fuck you up. It's like, how about we like have a fair place to do whatever the fuck you're trying to propose to me on some real shit? Because if you want to fight me in one lane, then we're gonna compare some other shit too of like, is that even like, could that be like a more fair possibility, right? Like there's not just that going on. It's not just the fight shit of just that. There's other shit that's happening, right? So since there's other shit of happening, people are just ironically, it's either the things are like hidden for some reason, or things are just fake, right? So it's either hidden or fake. That's it. It's hidden or fake. And if it's hidden, okay, that's the fates doing their weird ass shit. But if it's fake, then it's fake. If it's fake, then that's positive toxicity. That's positive fucking toxic shit. So I'm a positive toxic person because I see the fucking fake shit for what it is, respectively. So I'm positive toxic. Beyond those toxicas. Beyond those madre toxicas and chisme fucking aunties and tias and tios. Beyond all of that fucking like sour, old, obsolete, outdated, ain't shit in the bigger picture toxica shit. That's the positive toxicas. Entiende? So let's get back to the astrology. Let me sip this blancs. Let me sip this blanco. Como está? So he's the clown though, with the red nose, with the red nose, with the red nose, with the red hose. Slow down for a minute though, slow down for a second though, slow down for an eternity though, ebbing and flowing, ebbing and tipping and towing, web feet like a frog ribbit though, oh skip it though, hit it though, did it though, with it though, yo glitz it though, glitz and glam it though, spam it though, plan it though, flannel it out though, plan it though, flam it though, flamingo flow, ham it though, cram it though, damn it, if I do it, not that, if I don't, got the anadiddly dope. Anyways, so back to the astrology is saying, nope. So back to the astrology and so back to the astrology for a second. And peace, ironically for me to wish you peace amongst the war, I can't judge your interesting paradox because even though people want a war, they still on an energetic, like on a different subtle need. Even if you do want a war, you still need to like plan for like some type of quote unquote energetic peace, end quote, to recharge. So what does energetic peace mean? It means like there has to be energetically some type of stability to protect yourself, because we have to ask, why are the wars happening? But like just for my own like understanding, and that's, I'm not going to get off topic. Exactly. So there, I could like glance at these news articles, and these news articles, their narratives could be misleading, and that's just what it is, So sun is in gate 42, increase. So life force energy, to see the increase in the temperament of how the sun is provoking the earth, the sun and the moon and the other surface levels. They're provoking the earth in which we're on. And the sun has a unique opposition to earth in its own like juxis within, the parameter quadrant, that how the solar system has an order of the sun and the earth are kind of like hand in hand, right? So the sun and the earth, they have a unique opposition. So within the sun and the earth, it's like we got life force, and then we got natural dormancy and unconscious earth, right? That's the earth planet. The earth planet is natural dormancy. So within that natural dormancy, on the other side is the life force, sun and earth. So within sun and earth, where our natural dormancy is kind of like being led to increase with nature, sun and air, or sun and Aries, 75%. So there's an increase. So we're at the top of the Aries roller coaster. And within the top of the Aries roller coaster, from that top of the roller coaster, for the next 6 to 12 months, it's going to start us off with just the increase of energy within the plants, right? Within everything. Things are more abundant on the earth when it's sun and earth on Aries. Things are like the sun is getting ready to have its own different esoteric processes of photosynthesis within not just the plants, but the earth and the humans themselves. So the sun transmitting that photonic energy from how the sun gets its photonic energy from its own stability of the sun and the earth being at a certain praxis parameter quadrant, and within that's generating energy from the nearby other outside planets, for the outside planets to affect the solar system of the mechanics, for the sun to even generate all that life force energy, and that whole planetary orbital solar system is moving through different contexts of the constellations for Earth to be affected ultimately, and ultimately the Earth is being affected, and everything is on the earth, the mineral seed, the collective mineral seed of the earth. And within that, the collective mineral seed of the earth, when it's Libra and sun is in Aries, then that Earth being in Libra is like just seeing like kind of like the baby gods pretty much. Libra being like, you know, kind of like baby god council, right? Because it's like Jupiter is like the ruler of like Libra, Scorpio, and Aries. I mean, Libra, Scorpio, and Sag, that whole quadrant, and other quadrants in different, and just throughout different pockets of time. Like there's like this Jupiter energy pretty much. And within the Jupiter energy, he of course is like, could be participating within like, of course, the Aries energy too, right? So within that, it's like we're kind of at a natural dormancy to kind of just see the new humans, like new, and this is my own shit, you know, because I could see like other, you know, conscious channel programs just kind of be like toxic and like quote unquote vampiric toxic, end quote, most respectively, with the energy. And it's not that. It's not the fake shit. It's not the hidden shit. It's not the cognitive dissonance shit. This is beyond all that fake fragmented open source shit. This is the realest shit. And that fake cognitive dissonance shit, if you don't have coward intelligence, it will meet it in a fair intellectual way. And that's just what it is. And that's just what the fucking game is. Like, I don't give a fuck naturally. And I still respect you. I'm here for truth. That's the purpose of my fucking life. It's all for truth. So so the Earth being in like Libra, it's kind of like in that kind of like fall aspect. So within the solar system, there's a new falling pocket within the solar system where it's opposite of like this solar arena. Because if you look at the solar system as kind of like two S's laying to the side, it's like 1, 2 in one context. So Libra would be kind of like the third quarter of that in a fall, as opposed to like when the Earth is in Aries and the sun is in Libra. Then when the sun is in Libra and the Earth is in Aries, then we're solar activated again because the Earth is in Aries, right? So the unconscious body is like, it came from like, from the 6 months, it goes from sun in Aries to sun in Libra, or Earth in Libra to Earth in Aries. Then from that 6 months, that 6 month cycle is like the Earth is going from a place of sun in Aries, Earth in Libra. It's like baby Jupiterian new humans, sun in Aries. So baby Jupiterian new humans, that's the sun in Aries because the Earth is in Libra. So it's baby. So within sun in Aries, it's baby Jupiterian new humans. And then that baby Jupiterian new human from the sun in Aries, Earth in Libra, once it goes sun in Libra, Earth in Aries, then the baby Jupiterian new humans are now baby new Mars and sun new humans. And they're here to do like their own individual purpose of just their own individual shit. Aries, Mars and Sun, just your own individual shit within the council of a different context of an 11. 1 being your own individual thing, and then a different one, a fake to not fake wholeness. 1. So 1 So 11 is like 1 casually, or 11 is 11 senses from original classic Gita, and all the Gitas. It's the Gita is just, what does the Gita really mean? It's just the differentiation of the gods, pretty much. Because if the Gita was passed down and influenced, and the Gita is ultimately the quote unquote the song of the universe, right? And like, you know, they say Shiva gave the Gita to Jai Shri Bhagavan Govinda at one stage of life, or give or take 6,000 years ago. And whether that could be more or less true, or not necessarily like understood properly, it could be that it's just like we're all influencing each other on a different, more natural, pure look out of it. We're all influencing each other from like, we all have access to like kind of like see that Brahman, and how we're seeing the differentiation of the source. And that's kind of just being pushed out for us to kind of re-express it, right? And I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to like have that competition of just like, you know, what God is better than what God. I just feel like we're all learning from each other, right? We're all learning from each other in such a way where we're just all learning from each other, and we have to kind of like just let like we just I don't want to sound like, you know, tacky, but we have to just let the universe do its thing and surrender to the universe, right? Because I don't want to sound like tacky though, but what I mean by that is like, like what the Gita means is just like, it's explaining how like things are happening, right? And things are happening from different vantage points, right? Respectively. So since things are happening from different vantage points, I feel like, quote unquote, what do you call that? What's his name? Govinda and Rudra, they're they're just kind of like they're going through their different like stages to express the Gita, right? Like, so Govinda and Rudra, they're just Govinda and Rudra, they're just kind of like they're reincarnating, and then they're going before their incarnation. Before the incarnation, they were like one with like Brahman, right? Like Govinda and Rudra in one context, they were Brahman together, right? So I think when you see that picture, because we have to decipher the picture, when I think it's like more kind of like, it's like allegorical, metaphorical, when like we see like when we see the picture where Shiva and Krishna are kind of like one being. I think it's just like that. I think it's just an allegory to the Brahman, right? Because some people could say like that's not necessarily true. They didn't fuse like that, but we don't know if they fused like that in one day and then they defused a different day. We don't know. But I'm not downplaying to say that Rudra could have influenced some of the Gita to Krishna on the battlefield, because like people will say, like I heard that piece of information where like they said Rudra gave the Gita to Krishna at one point in time. I think that there was influence that was passed from us experiencing the universe subjectively, because no matter what, we're gonna experience the universe subjectively, and when we experience the universe subjectively, that's our personal subjectivity to like how we're understanding the mechanics of the universe, the quote unquote Gita, end quote. So it wasn't exactly that Rudra gave the Gita to Krishna. I wouldn't say that's exactly the case. It was just a passing of shared respective influence from different eternal like starting points, right? But shout out and love to like all y'all still somehow. Shout out and love. So within that, it's like within that Rudra type of flavor, we're kind of working for that. We're going through the motions of like there's like within the system, there's like, even though there's a lot of change happening, there's still like a lot of not change happening. And that's the thing we don't know, because certain like owners are always going to be the certain owners, and within the mortal part of the life, we don't like that part. We don't like how like there's like material competition, right? But like true spirituality should transcend that and influence the material thing. So it's just some weird irony, right? Because like the material thing, it's influenced by a different genuine spirituality that we forgot, and we're all hypey around genuine spirituality, but still we're not like the physical being sometimes isn't about it. No disrespect, but we also have to realize like the physical incarnation, it could pass though, it could have like things are hard, like there are like rigid owners, right? But within the rigid owners, time moving through time, that will soon like in due time that has to shift according to some type of Tao comprehension, right? So let me read the astrology real quick, and then let me read the Tao real quick. So I'm on chapter 11 and 12 and 13, just to honor a 3 and just to have a new natural interpretation of 13. Before it was the surface level, whatever certain humans want to use it in just their own unique way, right? Because like 6,000 years ago, the number 13, it was not used how it was used now. So I'm just going to honor chapter 11, 12, and 13 of the Tao. And it's ironic that I bring up the Tao, because the Tao is also trying to tell you to go through the motions and let shit go. The Tao is trying to tell you that, right? So the Tao is trying to tell you to go, like things are in motion, go with the motions and let shit go and let shit flow, and the timestamp is there just for a different, advanced kind of like accuracy of it, because ironically that advanced accuracy is being asked for and needed on a different front casually, just for a different intellectual completion. So like that, it's like nothing will be hidden in the future. I don't know when, maybe, but not in the future. Nothing will be hidden. Everything will be revealed. And the prophecies since 2012, without the titles of things, say these energy truths of like nothing will be revealed type of shit. And I'm sure it hints it in the Bible. I'm sure it hits it in like, probably even like, Quran, respectively. I'm sure it hints it like, just different books are here to help us, or they're being used in just a very interesting, unique way. And that's, the predecessors are naturally just telling us that, right? So Tao chapter 11, 12, and 13, what's up with it? Yeah, it started from the beginning. So every time I do these videos, one of my rigid intellectual part of my mind says to start it from the beginning. But chapter 11, so start this from the beginning. Chapter 11, 12, 13 of the Tao, let it go, maybe. And then let me get to the astrology after. So start this from the beginning for the better understanding, and let me read 3 chapters of the Tao, then I'll do the astrology. So chapter 11 of the Tao, 30 spokes, 30, join at the hub. They're used for the carts, Instacart, grocery shopping maybe, or mules, donkeys and mules, hays, carts of hay there, horses, hold your horses, hay, golden hay, Rapunzel's here, hay, moo, hay, cows and goats and farm animals are here, hay, the dirt is here, the cart, the donkey cart, the mule cart, the cart is here, 30 spokes, the wheel, that little house on the prairie, the carts, the horses, the Noah's Ark is here, Noah's Ark, pause. Chill, real biblical prophecies on a natural level. Pause and stop using the Bible for demonic things, Pope. Chilling, bro. 11, 30 spokes, join at the hub. They're used for the cart. Noah's Ark. The real, let's see, that's the thing. Just because people could demonically use the Bible, that doesn't mean the natural truth of the Bible lives in a different thing. That's the weakness of the demons. The weakness of the demons is they forget that there's a whole different truth narrative of energy and shit like that. So that's the main weakness of the demon. They're totally like unknowing to a whole different possibility of God, like for real, and they're just using it in a certain time within the material realm where they have the advantage, and sick, twisted, quote unquote, some part of consciousness in its own natural humor allowed that maybe, and now there's a different change within the energy guard of just like saying, within the transition of whatever the fuck we're coming out of to wherever the fuck we're going, there's more light within the solar system casually. And within that, everything will be revealed. So when they're using their demonic Bible Instacart grocery cart, and they don't know that God is using his own angelic grocery cart Instacart of his Noah's Ark, because the cart is the Noah's Ark. The Tao, 30 spokes, the horses, the mules, the donkeys, 30 spokes, chapter 11 of the Tao, 30 spokes, gonna do drill it, gonna go gun it, gonna go skrill it, gonna go till it, gonna go mill it, gonna go fill it, gonna go reel it, gonna go rototill it, gonna go deal it, gonna go flip it, gonna go flop it. You can never stop it. Different type of ultra cosmic logic. I don't give a fuck. Y'all know you're gonna copy it when you chop it. Natural pedicos, never gonna stop it. Pop it, prop it, motherfucker plop it, motherfucker plot it, motherfucker change it, then I crop it, then you not it, cause I fuck spot it. I know you want it, need it, got it, make it, mock it, clay pot it, mock it. Yo, moccasins, Mackins, yo, what's the matter, son? Yo. Chapter, the Proverbs, the Matthew again, the use of the pot precisely where there is nothingness. Yo, original open source beyond and authority used on a different shit beyond your copyright trademark shit, because I'm beyond all motherfucking time, ho. And space though, I'm the ultimate original God place though. 30 spokes though, 30 spokes join at the hub. They chapter 11, 30 spokes, 30 spokes join at the hoib. Their use for the 30 spokes join at the hub. Their use for the cart is where they are not. When the potter's wheel makes a pot, no Harry Potter, when the potter's wheel makes a pot, the use of the pot is precisely where there is nothing. So that's like some God shit right there. It's like, that's where God has to be there, right? Quote unquote, end quote. When you open doors and windows for a room, where nothing is. So there's something opposed from nothing, something, original open source. When you open doors and windows for a room, and then obviously different timestamps for how that's already used on a different original open source to prove that, to just show in the quote unquote original galactic courtrooms that are reflecting and pouring into whatever the fuck they're saying, the surface level material international courtrooms are, casually saying that. When you open doors and windows for a room, it is where there is nothing, that they are useful to the room. Therefore, being is for benefit. Non-being is for usefulness. Non-being, deep let go, deep surrender. Good, it's like some type of surrender, some type of dark surrender. 30 spokes join at the hub. Their use for the cart is where they are not. When the potter's wheel makes a pot, the use of the pot is precisely where there is nothing. When you open doors and windows for a room, it is where there is nothing, that they are useful to the room. Therefore, being is for benefit. Non-being is for usefulness. Chapter 12 of the Tao. Colors blind people's eyes. Colors blind people's eyes. Sounds deafen their ears. Flavors spoil people's palates. The chase and that's duality. The chase and the hunt craze people's minds. That's their own incarnation process. Because people are fucked up in the head, right? And they want you to suffer, right? There's people that want you to suffer for whatever reason. They're just wherever they're at. And the Tao is casually saying that. So colors blind people's eyes, sounds deafen their ears, flavors spoil people's palates, the chase and the hunt craze people's minds, goods hard to obtain, make people's actions harmful. People therefore sages work for the middle and not the eyes, leaving the latter and taking the former. Ooh. So this is on some real, it's deep surrender. It's despicable, hard trust. Let it all go. And it's funny because I was thinking of let it go, and then I fucking go onto the Tao, and for some reason it just fits like a fucking opposite of a Chinese finger trap. You know those Chinese finger traps where like, no, I can't get it. And that, you know what? That's probably like, that's crazy because like aside from this time of the humans, I could have been Chinese in a past life. That's the thing. That's what the general intelligence doesn't understand. Like I could have been that, but like they could think in such an intellectual way where they have contraptions where the Chinese finger trap, it's like, there's like a contract, right? They want you to choose a contract, so you're binded and you have to follow that contract. Shout out to the esoteric predecessors 5,000 years ago and 10,000 years ago and 20,000 years ago. You have the best life ever. Quality 2017. Thank you very much. The predecessors, give me knowledge on the Chinese finger trap beyond all of this copycat replicated AI shit. Predecessors, give me knowledge on the Chinese finger trap. So chapter 12, where did the Chinese finger trap originate? Colors blind people's eyes, sounds deafen their ears, flavors spoil people's palates, the chase and the hunt craze people's minds. People are in their own delusion, first of all. And since they're in their own delusion, it's kind of dangerous. It's dangerous what someone could do, what someone's capable of how they misuse their fire, right? It's like from the misuse of fire, things can get burnt down, just energetics. Hello. So within that, if people are delusional and for whatever reason they want you to suffer, then then we have to leave it to God to like kind of like help us, right? We have to leave it to God to kind of like, for real though, like we have to leave it to God to help us. So we have to like leave it to God, right? and then like going beyond that word God, and then actually like, you know, go like working with that somehow. Because I don't want to dwell that, like, if people just want to make you suffer based on their own shit, that's their problem, you know, that's their problem. It's like, that's, you know, good luck with that type of shit, right? You know, the system may catch up with God, right? So it's like, good luck with that shit, you know, like you trying to make me suffer for some weird reason. Okay, that's part of the therapy, right? You're trying to make me suffer for some weird reason. Chapter 13 of the Tao, favor and disgrace. And obviously that could go, I'm not going to talk about that like entirely. Favor and disgrace seem alarming. Chapter 13 of the Tao, favor and disgrace seem alarming. High status greatly afflicts your person. What are favor and disgrace? Favor is the lower. Get it and you're surprised. Lose it and you're startled. This means favor and disgrace are alarming. Why does high status greatly afflict your person? The reason we have a lot of trouble is that we have selves. If we had no selves, what troubles would we have? Therefore, for those who embody nobility to act for the sake of the world seem to be able to draw the world to them, while those who embody love to act for the sake of the world seem to be worthy of the trust of the world. Chapter 13 of the Tao, trust. Trust was broken for 13 generally. And now they're on a trust, you know, kind of gung-ho thing. Wow. Yeah, so why do people want to make you suffer? Because deep down, the esoteric reason is it's something that's out of their control. They lost control, and since they lost control, they have their own unique hatred, where since there's a losing of control, people want to make you suffer because there's a lack of control. There's a loss of control. There's a loss happening with them in the universe. They're naturally losing to the universe. And as they naturally lose to the universe, they don't like that. They want to kind of like forge and go against God. And since they want to forge and go against God, they like, people want to make you suffer, right? Because there's a lack of control. There's a lack of like authority, right? Like for real though, like within the balanced system of it. So within that, they're gonna go out in your way so you don't get that level up, right? So it's like there's a level up. Now I'm gonna read chapter 14 and that's it. So for some reason, 4 chapters of the Tao came out. Chapter 14, when you look at it, don't see it. What you don't see when you look is called the unobtrusive. What you don't hear when you listen is called the rarefied. What you don't get when you grasp is called the subtle. These 3 cannot be completely fathomed, so they merge into one. Above is not bright, below is not dark, continuous, unnameable. It returns again to nothing. This is called the stateless state, the image of no thing. This is called mental abstraction. When you face it, you do not see its head. When you follow it, you do not see its back. Hold the ancient way so as to direct present existence. Only when you can know the ancient can this be called the basic cycle of the way. Wow, this Tao, it's so deep. It's so deep. Now let me read the sun transit, and y'all could share love however you want, you know. Y'all could. And obviously you could like retranscribe this, obviously, you know, you could somehow reboost the audio, obviously, and then obviously the visual could be reboosted. So I get that. I get that original open source kind of shit. So Mercury and Neptune and Aries, the narrative, the ancient narrative is already doing its shit beyond the humans. That's it. That's it for the astrology. That's the end of the reading of the astrology. Mercury and Neptune and Aries, the ancient narrative is here It's either you've done the shadow work to catch up or not. And within the next 5 years, we're going to see what the last 5 years we were doing. So within the last 5 years, we were doing energy work to see how we could, whatever we wanted 5 years ago as desires and wants 5 years ago, now there's a new 5 that's going to test us to see if we can uphold that shit. Do we even deserve it energetically, right? There's a work that has to be done. So the last 5 years from the past, and I know it sounds super basic and shit, but 5 years from now, it's going to lead us, and it's going to refine if we did the work to catch up. Did we do the work to catch? So 5 years from now, in 2030 exactly, good God, time flies. So in 2030, we're going to see, like, did we mature within the work that we're doing from 5 years ago? Because 5 years ago, if we were dedicated on some shit within your own work ethic or your own trying or energy work or whatever, because in 8 years ago, I was putting in work already. So like I'm on my own shit though. I'm on a whole different lane from how people are using AI in a fabricated, replicated, detrimental, ignorant, distorted way. I'm on a different lane. And if your AI can't recognize that, then balance to you. Yeah, shout out to Shiva so. Shout out to original Rudra so. I'm gonna write something real quick. I wrote down a note. Let me read chapter 14. I'm done with the astrology. Chapter 14 of the Tao one more time. And then chapter 3 and 4 of taking care of business. I wrote down a note. I keep that note for myself. Chapter 14, when you look at it, don't see it. What you don't see when you look is called the unobtrusive. I'm going to look up that word. What does unobtrusive mean? Let's see. I'm already done with the astrology. I already gave the vibe. Unobtrusive. So the vibe for the astrology is like things have been set in motion. That was the first intro of this whole conversation. If you start it from the beginning, things are being set into, things have a different setting of motion. There's different setting of motions beyond the AI. Like there's a different thing happening within the nature of the universe, respectively, quote unquote, beyond the AI, unquote, which is things are set in motion. So that's the starting of this conversation. If you're just for some reason barely clicking on. Geronimo. I don't know why I said that. Unobtrusive, not conspicuous or attracting attention. What does it mean to be unobtrusive? If you describe something or someone as unobtrusive, you mean that they are not easily noticed or do not draw attention to themselves. So low key, right? Low key, kind of like guy with the coat and a hat, and maybe he's like the CIA or something. The coffee table is glass, and then just all disclaimers are here. The coffee table is glass to be as unobtrusive as possible. What you don't see when you look is called the unobtrusive. It's hidden in plain sight. What you don't hear when you listen is called the rarefied. God is there. Or no, I don't want to say that. What you don't get when you grasp is called the subtle. What you don't get when you grasp is called the subtle. These three cannot. What you don't get when you grasp is called the subtle. These three cannot be completely fathomed, so they merge into one. Above is not bright, below is not dark. Continuous, unnameable, it returns again to nothing. This is called the stateless state, the image of no thing. This is called mental abstraction. When you face it, you do not see its head. When you follow it, you do not see its back. Hold the ancient ways so as to direct present existence. Only when you can know the ancient can this be called the basic cycle of the way. Woo! Oh, shit. Chapter 3. So now we're going to apply this to a business type of perspective, right? So the astrology was kind of the astrology, and before the astrology was kind of like the relationship dynamic work of just mental, preparing for like, quote unquote work life, right? End quote. And life, right? Not you and me, like just preparing for life, right? Because I talked about before the astrology and the Tao, I kind of said my two piece, right? So it was the two piece of life, and then the life obviously will mature to business. The astrology is obviously setting the platform for business on a different level. And then the Tao, it's like this crazy spiritual shit is also applying to business. So crazy spiritual shit, the Tao is applying to business somehow. Astrology that's in and out of the Tao is, affecting the business shit, right? Mercury being in its own front of Pisces to Aries, of just like the head organizer of intelligence and like the surface level evolution of consciousness. Mercury is like the surface level evolution of consciousness, respectively. That Mercury is in a certain feminine sanction of the body of like a 12th house, first house dynamic. And Mercury and the evolution of consciousness is now going back to like evolutional origins, Aries. So I talked about astrology, I talked about spiritual shit, Tao, and now I'm going to, and then I did my own two piece before the astrology and the Tao shit. I was doing my own two piece, just my own life shit, just my own, like whatever the fuck my style means, right? And now my style, astrology, and then Tao, spiritual shit, is now going into business. So I'm going to read chapter 3 and chapter 4, and I was talking about relationships, and then now maintaining the relationships. So this whole chapter is about like maturing to maintain relationships that you get to like choose, right? You get to quote unquote choose the relationships, quote unquote, right? Or suggest it, right? 10% on the battery. So to kind of just cap this off, it's like chapter 3 is pointing us to understanding the people. So since chapter 3 is pointing us to understand the people, we're going to try to maintain the relationships, perhaps, right? Perhaps, right? It's like you could only want to like do something, but just because you want to do something, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do it. You have to put effort, right? There's a certain effort process going on. And I'm doing this for the bigger picture because I could see other people's disclaimers of like, he's at this part of his life. Like I understand that part, but I'm just doing a different work. I'm just doing a different work, And if you don't understand I'm doing a different work, geez, then like why are we here then? Why are we here? So business synergistics, episode 5, maintaining relationships, chapter 3, understanding the people. Let's skim read it. Learning how to read people. Everyone has some natural ability to read others. The most accurate way to evaluate people is to observe what you perceive without making a judgment. Just look and listen without prejudice. Be willing to accept others as they are. Reading people depends on getting Reading people depends on getting your own emotions out of the way. Your initial response provides the most accurate information about others. Pay close attention to any negative first impression when you meet another person, occurring before you have been educated by the other person to see them as they want to appear. A negative feeling always means that you should not be. A negative feeling always means that you should be on guard because something is wrong. You need to discover where it comes from. Always take time to frame a clear impression of your first response. Maintaining relationships is the title of this video. Maturing to maintain relationships, because we're not thinking about this shit, right? So since we're not thinking about it, that's the maturation process, right? There's a maturation process if that wants to be fabricated or not, right? There's like a maturation process. Like obviously something has to take time. Like we've understood that for a long time, you know? So the title of this episode is Maturing to Maintain Relationships. Always take time to frame a clear or saying no to wrong relationships, right? Understanding people, saying no to wrong relationships. Always take time to frame a clear impression of your first response, even if it is only to remark to yourself. Being aware of how you distort and also how accurate your judgments are will give you confidence in evaluating others, and your skill will grow. Your comfort in dealing with another person initially is the key to how your relationship is going to progress. You will discover several subtle clues that foretold all of your present difficulties. Your first meeting is that revealing, that crucial. However, you should be willing to change your first opinion, but you must still be aware of any pattern that you see. Keep in mind that in the first meeting, psychiatric or otherwise, people will reveal most of the concerns that have been on their mind for years, pressing for expression. Unfortunately, once expressed in this first meeting, they are often forgotten. Sometimes you don't think as clearly in the presence of the other person. Take some measure of this silent barrier. It is an extension of the other's inhibition and tells you how closed he or she is. And I was talking about measurements in the beginning too, right? If you find it difficult to stay focused on what someone is telling you, that person may be using a boring drone to ward off close scrutiny. If after a meeting you notice that you have a lot of unasked questions, write out the line of questioning you would have pursued if you hadn't felt inhibited. Become more familiar with the questions and feelings you tend to inhibit during meetings with others, and you will gradually become aware of them at the time they occur, and you will feel more comfortable bringing them up. Keeping a record of your first impressions will help you increase the accuracy of your judgments. Does a particular need lead you astray? So people are like, they're like, you know, some people are just like, they have a perspective about they like, they're forming a perspective of you. Like the tech CEOs, they're forming a perspective about you, data specialist, right? Does a particular need lead you astray? Just such as the need for acceptance or praise. Naturally saying that, you know. Be aware of your weakness. The person who could operate in your area of need could control you. Remember, everyone is prejudiced. The successful person understands how. The wise person understands why. Because because prejudice, you know, what's going to work for me, you know? And like everyone surviving in such a crazy way. Remember, everyone is prejudiced. This simple book is so fucking deep, dude. This simple fucking book is so deep. Remember, everyone is prejudiced. Wow. God damn it, guys. Everyone is prejudiced. Damn it, David. Damn it. Mr. Viscott. The three personality types. Let's touch upon these three personality types. While it is true that almost all people will reveal themselves if you give them a chance, it is also true that people fall into three basic personality types: dependent, controlling, and competitive. It is at such times that a person most needs to be understood and managed properly. For while saying one thing to one type may be helpful, it makes matters worse for another. So everyone's different. What follows will help you determine whom you are dealing with, what prejudices they have, in which situations they are likely to do well, and in which they are most likely to get in trouble. It will also be useful for you it will also be, it will also be useful for you to determine your own emotional style and consider how it distorts your perceptions. Dependent people dread being alone, and so other people figure prominently in their well-being to avoid the risk of being rejected. This is the bind of dependent people. If you understand this, you have the key to making them happy. They're the happiest when they are pleasing another person. They feel most deranged when they are rejected, and so want to get as close as possible to others to prevent this from happening. So it's kind of like there's like the clingy spirits. So these dependent people, like you got to see like who's just naturally or toxically have a clingy approach, and that clingy approach, that's obviously it's recognized, you know. This is the bind of dependent people. Their constant conflict is that they fear losing what they have as much as they enjoy possessing it. If you understand this, you have the key to making them happy. This is pretty deep stuff. It's pretty deep. It's pretty deep stuff. Their proper goal is to grow up to become more self-sufficient, so they will be less likely to be damaged by the loss of another person. The dependent position expresses itself as a need for someone else in order to feel complete, a fear of abandonment, and a need for reassurance. Dependent people want instructions and need to be led. They need to know where to get help, but often are so afraid of being rejected for appearing stupid that they don't ask when they get into trouble. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know? There's nothing wrong with, like, you know, just you know, needing direction, you know? It's you know, there's not. Dependent people under the right circumstances are the most reliable and content members of any workforce. See, so that dependent aspect is like, it's a basic part of like the circle of life, you know, these like, and it's kind of more or less relative to human design, but I'm seeing its own individual context, right? Dependent people under the right circumstances are the most reliable and content members of any workforce, the ones least likely to cause problems when their basic needs are met. They need constancy of support to belong and be regarded as family, and above all, to be loved. Anything that supports these feelings enhances their well-being. This includes providing job security, retirement benefits, insurance protection, family health, and educational support, frequent signs of emotional appreciation, and continued reassurance that they are doing a good job and won't be replaced or fired. Their loyalty when they are well provided for is unconditional. Physical signs of belonging are also important to them. They need to be continually reassured that they play an important role in whatever system they work. Dependent people seldom work alone. Moving frightens them. The unknown terrifies them. They require supervision, especially in difficult situations. If they lose contact with their leaders at a time of personal crisis, even trusted personnel are capable of letting loyalty slide and following whoever seems to have the capacity to leave. When dependent people feel you do not care, you have lost them. Dependent people need as much preparation and explanation of any change as possible. They need information so badly that they will invent their own rumors and believe them if they don't have enough to go on. So that's a part. It's not. It's a. So what he's in a different context. It's not that there's three different types of people. No, they're parts of the psyche. They need perhaps give calm reassurance and ample opportunity to ask questions. Dependent people are especially sensitive to certain words and tend to hear them out of context. Examples of highly charged words include laid off, not needed, useless, uncertain, closing, moving, and leaving. A certain unique triggering is happening. Examples of such highly charged words include laid off, not needed, useless, uncertain, closing, moving, and leaving. The narc could get triggered, mind you, naturally. And I'm not saying that to anybody. I'm just saying that generally. Words they find reassuring include definite, certain, unquestionably, optimistic, positive, necessary, needed, growing, and permanent. Bear in mind that any expression of ambiguity, uncertainty, or potential loss creates anxiety because dependent people tend to remember only that you said a certain word and fill in the details to match their worst fears. Controlling people are difficult people to manage. They are not free. And this is his context, right? Because obviously the misinterpretations of distortion, they will be recognized and they're not true, and people are just generally making shit up and lying. So I understand this person's context of it and people's misinterpretations of it. Controlling people are difficult people to manage. They are not free and do not want you to be free. They want to control you, write the rules, define the terms, give the directions, illustrate the points, check the figures, find faults in logic, show where you went wrong, and prove they were right. Controlling people, borderline narky. It's no surprise that they find themselves fighting battles. They meet frustration everywhere they go. It's a part too. It's a psychological part. They seek influence. They like having people indebted to them. They need to feel important. They want to be the key person. They want to create and control the bottlenecks of the world. Controlling people are calculating, not spontaneous, and are afraid to be open because they do not believe in their own lovableness or real worth. They try to control other people's opinion of them because they are afraid that if others had their choice, they would reject them. Down deep, they fear being abandoned just as dependent people do. So I got to check the battery. Chapter 3 is chapter 3 is longer than I thought. Wow, chapter 3 is pretty long. So I'm at some low battery right now. And I'll skim through the other part later. My battery, or let me show you a diagram. Let me finish. Let me check the battery. 7%. So the seven is 7%. So the 7 is calling me already. So, and I'm on page 57. So I got 57 and 7, or I'm at 56, 57, and I folded 57. Yeah, chapter 3 is pretty long. So, it's like 15 pages left of chapter 3, and I'll skim it, and I'll show you the diagrams at the end of the chapter. And let's just look at these diagrams. So if we approach these types of people with parts, quote unquote, possible parts of self that we could transform within ourselves, such as the dependent, the controlling, and the competitive. In chapter 3, he's just straight up talking about, and for some reason I read it in like the first page. He highlights this in an earlier episode. He just highlights. Ooh, I think I ripped a page off or something. Should I read some final advice? Maybe I'll. No, I'll leave that for later. So there was a page where it just talked about the part, and I think I ripped something got ripped out. Oh, okay. I ripped the table of contents out. My bad. The table of contents ripped out. Fuck. So I'm gonna end the video right now, starting from the beginning. The table of contents isn't here. It's on its own journey. See, look, that's the thing. We're on a new journey. That's the whole point of this. We're on a new journey, and it's up to us to recognize toxic relationships. That's the point of this video. Respectively. Recognize toxic relationships. Let me talk about the diagram. Let me read the diagram. Oh, I showed you the diagram. And then after All right. Thank you guys. I'll be back.